Master of Disguise, a Helena Monroe story. Chapter 1. First Impressions. Helena Monroe stepped off the curb in front of her office and gazed at the flickering neon sign across the street. Through a light drizzle, she saw her reflection in a nearby window, tired eyes, hair in a tight bun. She took a breath, bracing for another long day. As a former FBI profiler turned private investigator, she'd seen her share of disquieting cases. But something about the urgent voicemail she'd received last night felt especially unsettling. She turned her key in the office door and flipped on the lights. A half-organized stack of case files teetered on her desk, but she couldn't bring herself to straighten them just yet. Instead, she replayed the voicemail. "Ms. Monroe, this is Detective Amar Singh from the Metro PD. We need your expertise. Urgently. A colleague recommended you. No one else sees the pattern. We've got a killer who's escalating, and we're out of time." The words haunted her during her early morning coffee. Escalating. Out of time. She'd heard such language before in the Bureau, especially around cunning criminals who adapt quickly to law enforcement tactics. She was intrigued and wary. Just then, the buzzer sounded. A tall, lean man in a dark suit walked in, shoulders set with tense precision. "Helena Monroe?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, gesturing for him to sit. "Detective Singh, I presume?" He nodded, scanning the cluttered walls of newspaper clippings and old photographs. "I appreciate you meeting me on short notice," he said. "I'm heading the investigation into a string of burglaries turned homicides. We believe the suspect is exceptional at impersonation." Helena tucked her hair behind her ear. "Impersonation? How so?" Singh sighed. "He dresses up as official personnel, paramedics, police officers, utility workers, gains entry to homes with minimal resistance, then robs or kills. We're calling him the Master of Disguise. He started with high-value burglaries. Now 2 victims have been murdered." Helena felt her pulse quicken. She'd profiled con artists and killers who relied on deception before, but seldom at this extreme. The victims, did they have anything in common? Not at first glance, Singh admitted. One was a retired schoolteacher, the other a local businessman. No obvious link, except each let him inside voluntarily. He's so good, he leaves minimal evidence. Helena reached for her notepad, half listening to the resonance in Singh's voice. She jotted down keywords. Disguises, infiltration, no forced entry, minimal evidence. A prickling sensation at the back of her neck hinted that her hidden instincts were stirring. Occasionally she experienced flashes or dreams that guided her to crucial details. She hoped such a flash might come soon. "How can I help?" she asked. Singh leaned forward. "You were an FBI criminal profiler and forensic psychologist. I've heard you notice nuances others miss. We need that edge. The department is under pressure. He just killed a second victim, and the public is terrified." Helena nodded, recalling how she'd left the FBI after the Sarah Whitmore debacle, feeling betrayed by the system. It was a bitter memory, yet it also fueled her determination to do things her own way now. "All right, I'm in. But I'll need full access to the case files, crime scenes, and any suspect interviews." Singh handed her a file. "Start with these. We have incomplete camera footage of someone dressed as a utility worker near the businessman's home. Grainy, but might spark a clue." Helena opened the file, scanning the images. A figure in a standard blue jumpsuit, carrying what looked like a maintenance toolbox. The face was obscured by the visor of a cap. She felt a pang of frustration. This killer truly was invisible in plain sight. "Let me analyze these," she said. I'll call you with my first impressions. Then we can visit the scenes. Singh rose, nodding in gratitude. Thank you, Ms. Monroe. We're desperate, so I appreciate any insight you can give. After he left, Helena locked the door and sat behind her desk. She stared at the grainy photo in the file, mind roving over the possibilities. A burglar who escalates to murder is often compelled by either fear of exposure or a newfound thrill. Which was it here? She scribbled notes, cross-referencing typical progression paths of criminals who rely on deception. Then, for the briefest moment, her vision blurred. The reflection of a uniform in the photo seemed to shimmer, as though revealing another shape beneath. Was it a clue, or was she simply exhausted? She swallowed hard. She would do whatever it took to unmask this chameleon before he struck again. Homicides that revolve around deception often spiral faster than typical crime sprees. She could feel the clock ticking. Outside, the drizzle turned into a steady rain. She set aside her initial worry and dug into the file. If the master of disguise thought he could hide behind uniforms forever, he hadn't met Helena Monroe yet. Chapter 2. No Forced Entry. Helena arrived at the crime scene of the most recent murder early the next day, an upscale suburban neighborhood where the second victim, Mark Adler, had lived. The property was large, with manicured hedges and a stone walkway leading to a front door that now stood sealed with police tape. Uniformed officers guarded the perimeter. But one of them waved her in upon recognizing her credentials. She stepped inside, inhaling the stale air of a house that had lost its normalcy overnight. The smell of disinfectant lingered, mixing with the faint, coppery tang that told her the forensic teams had cleaned up blood. A wave of sympathy washed over her. No matter how many times she'd seen murder scenes, the lives abruptly shattered by violence still weighed on her. Detective Singh stood in the foyer, talking quietly with a crime scene tech. He beckoned Helena over. "Thanks for coming," he said. "We still have some markers down, so watch your step." She nodded, observing the methodical layout of evidence tags. In the living room, an overturned coffee table indicated a brief struggle. She carefully circled the markers, focusing on the details. Broken glass from a lamp, a trail of blood smears leading to the hallway. "Any sign of forced entry this time?" she asked. Singh shook his head. "No. Neighbors saw a man dressed in a courier uniform. He had a package. Mr. Adler invited him inside, presumably to sign for it. Then something went wrong." Helena's eyes flicked to the front door. "The killer is resourceful, but his disguises aren't random. He picks roles people trust. Utility worker, paramedic, now a courier. That suggests planning and confidence." Singh handed her an evidence photo taken at the scene, a close-up of the package label. It was incomplete, the name smudged. He either forged a label or used a fake shipping company. The entire package was empty except for some bubble wrap. Helena studied the photo. He wanted a surefire way to get inside without suspicion. Once in, either Adler confronted him or he decided it was time to escalate. She glanced at the blood spatter near the hallway. The victim tried to run. Perhaps he realized the disguise was fake. Singh nodded grimly. Adler had a security camera in his study, but it was disabled. The killer used a small device to jam the feed. He showed her the device, a portable signal disruptor seized by forensics. Helena exhaled. He's prepared for everything. Walking deeper into the house, she paused at the threshold to the study, a spacious room lined with oak shelves. The desk lamp was overturned, its cord dangling from the edge. She stepped carefully. Nothing here looked ransacked, which was odd for a burglary that had escalated. Usually she'd expect more rummaging. "Did he steal anything major?" she asked. "Not that we know of yet," Singh replied. "Jewelry, wallets, electronics, some are gone. But the place isn't trashed. Looks like he knew exactly where valuables might be. Quick, efficient, then murder." Helena crouched near a small scuff mark on the hardwood floor, likely from the courier's shoes. There was a faint pattern in the dust, suggesting a particular tread. She snapped a quick photo with her phone. "I'll see if this pattern shows up in other scenes." Standing again, she felt a wave of dizziness. For a second, she saw the murderer in her mind's eye, a shape flickering between uniforms, like an actor changing costumes behind a curtain. The microvision passed, leaving her with a lingering unease. She cleared her throat. "He's escalating for a reason, Detective. We need to find out if something changed in his pattern or if these victims tie to a personal vendetta." Singh tapped his notebook. First victim was a retiree with minimal assets. Second was a businessman with multiple holdings. They don't have obvious connections. Helena pursed her lips. "He might not be targeting them personally. He's testing how far he can push his facade. The murders could be byproduct or thrill. Sociopathic impersonators sometimes enjoy the power trip." They left the study. As they walked back to the foyer, Helena noticed a painting near the door, a beach scene at sunset. Nothing about it was suspicious, yet her instincts flared briefly. For reasons she couldn't pinpoint, she felt drawn to the painting's nameplate. By Anonymous. Shaking off the feeling, she refocused on the facts. Outside, the sky was a crisp blue, birds chirping as though nothing sinister had happened. The mismatch with the grim scene inside unsettled Helena. She turned to Singh. "I'll review all the evidence, especially the older burglary cases. Maybe I can find a behavioral pattern. If we're dealing with a shapeshifter type, he'll likely strike again soon, especially if the media coverage inflates his ego." "Agreed," Singh said. "I'll send over everything. And thank you. No one else is analyzing his psyche like this. The department's swamped, and many folks are spooked at how easily he blends in." Helena offered a thin smile. "I've dealt with illusions before. Let's hope we catch him before he kills again." As she headed to her car, her mind wrestled with the puzzle. A cunning criminal who changes identities like second skins, leaving minimal evidence. She sensed this would be one of her most challenging cases yet. But she'd faced resistance and skepticism many times before. Her hidden instincts had guided her through the darkest complexities. She just hoped they wouldn't fail her now. Chapter 3. Clues Between the Lines. That evening, Helena returned to her small apartment, arms loaded with case files from Detective Singh. She dropped them onto her coffee table, which groaned under the weight. As the lamp flickered overhead, she felt the nerves in her stomach twist. She could sense the presence of a dangerous mind behind these pages. After a quick dinner of leftover stir-fry, she settled into the worn armchair by the window, flipping through burglary reports that preceded the murders. The pattern was subtle. Often high-value items stolen, no forced entry, a consistent mention of an official visitor. One homeowner recalled a cable repairman, another, a delivery nurse. But no single detail pinned down the suspect. Her phone buzzed, a text from Singh. "Found an old burglary case where suspect impersonated a policeman. Rare." Attaching file. Singh. She opened the attachment, a police report from nearly 2 years ago, describing a suspect who wore a police uniform to talk his way into a wealthy couple's home, then bound them with zip ties and took valuables. The couple survived, but the suspect vanished. The uniform had rank insignia mismatched for the city's force, which is why the victims realized something was off. Though too late to stop him, Helena's pulse quickened. 2 years was a long time. Had the master of disguise started back then, honing his craft and technique? Maybe only now he'd escalated to murder, perhaps triggered by a close call or a personal reason. She jotted notes, circling the date of that older incident. He's refining his approach. The night stretched on. Around 1 a.m., her eyelids drooped. She drifted off against the armchair, documents sliding off her lap. Then it came. A dream. Or perhaps a vision. She stood in a dark corridor lined with mirrors. Each mirror reflected a different uniform, a doctor's coat, a firefighter's jacket, a police uniform, a business suit. Footsteps echoed behind her, but she couldn't pinpoint from which reflection they emerged. A voice hissed, "You'll never catch what you can't see." The corridor stretched endlessly, the mirrors warping her reflection, distorting the uniforms into monstrous shapes. In one corner, she spotted a single silhouette, a figure removing a mask to reveal another mask beneath. She startled awake, heart racing. The clock read 3 a.m. She rubbed her temples, trying to shake off the eerie feeling. That dream was no literal prophecy, but her subconscious was telling her the killer's multiplicity of disguises might be deeper than a typical scam. Who is he when he's not disguised? Perhaps he barely exists as himself anymore. Rising from the chair, she placed the fallen papers back on the table. She decided to cross-reference everything first thing in the morning with her friend, Zane Park, a tech-savvy analyst who sometimes helped her. If there was any digital footprint, purchases of uniforms, gear, or pattern in online marketplaces, Zane might find it. The next day, after a quick black coffee, Helena headed to Zane's cramped workshop. The place smelled of circuit boards and coffee grounds, with glowing screens covering every wall. "Helena," Zane greeted, eyes bright behind thick glasses. "What do you need?" She summarized the case, showing him grainy security footage from the various crimes. Zane hummed with interest. "He's wearing different outfits every time, huh? Let me see if I can isolate his posture, body type, or any distinctive movement patterns." He queued up the videos. One angle from a neighbor's doorbell camera showed the suspect in a paramedic's uniform. Another from a street cam had him in a construction vest. Zane paused each clip, focusing on how the man walked, how he held his shoulders. "His build is medium, maybe 5'10", Zane said. But he's also adjusting his posture, almost crouching in some frames, standing taller in others. Impressive. He's systematically altering his gait. Helena leaned over his shoulder. "Look at his left hand in that paramedic footage. He tucks it in a particular way, almost as if he's hiding an old injury or something." Zane reversed the clip and zoomed in. "Could be. That might be a sign of nerve damage or a stiff joint. If he can't fully flex his left hand, that's a lead." Helena jotted it down. This was tangible. A disguised man might hide his face or hair, but a subtle physical limitation could be harder to mask. "Run this footage with that detail in mind across any other public videos you can get. Maybe we can spot someone with a similar posture away from the scene." Zane nodded. "Give me a few hours." Before Helena left, he patted a stack of electronics. "Also, you might want a hidden camera or two, in case you set a trap or something." Helena frowned. "A trap?" Zane shrugged. "If the killer has a pattern, sometimes going proactive flushes them out. Just saying." The idea lingered as Helena headed back to her sedan. She disliked the notion of luring a dangerous criminal into the open, but it had worked in previous manhunt cases. She'd consider it if all else failed. By afternoon, Helena was at the police station, updating Detective Singh. Their conversation took place in a small conference room lined with whiteboards. Photos of the victims and footprints from the scenes were pinned up. Singh sipped coffee. I tried matching your old impersonation case to the new ones. It's definitely the same MO, same brand of zip ties, same style of infiltration. But we've never had a stable ID on him. Helena told him about the potential left-hand issue. Singh perked up. I'll contact local clinics or physical therapists to see if any patients match that profile. It's a long shot, but worth it. They turned to the forensics board, analyzing each victim's timeline. Helena stepped closer, tapping her chin. He invests significant time and resources into these disguises. Uniforms, ID badges, equipment. That suggests either he has money or he's stealing what he needs from somewhere. If we find that supply chain, we might corner him. Suddenly, her phone beeped. A text from Zane. Hit on your posture clue, city bus footage, possible match, sending location. Helena's heart leapt. We may have a lead, she said to Singh, showing him the phone. A location in the industrial district. The timestamp was from 2 nights ago, around the time Mark Adler was killed. Could he have used public transit after the murder, wearing a casual disguise? If so, he might have left a trace, something that, for once, he failed to conceal. The tension in the room soared. They had a possible thread to tug. Helena's instincts fired up, whispering that the master of disguise was about to feel a threat he couldn't simply transform away from. But she'd need to stay vigilant. A predator this cunning wouldn't go down quietly. Chapter 4. The Warehouse of Faces. Helena and Detective Singh drove straight to the industrial district, following Zane's tip about the suspicious passenger caught on bus footage. Rows of warehouses and shuttered factories lined the streets, giving the neighborhood a desolate look. They parked near a rundown bus depot, where an older security guard greeted them with a wave. He looked puzzled when they flashed their IDs. "What can I do for you?" he asked. "We have reason to believe a homicide suspect used a city bus that passed through here 2 nights ago," Singh explained. "We need to see if any local cameras caught him after he got off the bus." The guard scratched his chin. "Our cameras aren't top-notch, but you're welcome to check. The bus station's main feed is in the back office." Helena and Singh followed him into a dimly lit room with monitors that displayed multiple angles of the depot and surrounding streets. The guard rewound the footage, searching for the timestamp Zane provided. The resolution was poor, but eventually a figure appeared. A man stepping off the bus wearing jeans, a hooded jacket, and gloves. At first glance, he looked ordinary, but Helena honed in on his left hand. It dangled slightly, as though not fully flexible. "Can we see where he went next?" she asked. The guard switched to an adjacent camera. The figure strode across the street and disappeared behind a row of abandoned warehouses. No sign of a car, no further footage. Singh let out a frustrated sigh. "It's like he vanished." Helena stepped closer, noticing a fleeting detail. The suspect paused near a locked gate, looked around, then pulled out a key, possibly to a padlock. Before the camera angle cut off, he slipped through the gate into a fenced warehouse lot. That might be a hideout. "Any chance we can access that site?" she asked the guard, who shrugged. "The property was purchased by some private entity months ago. It's mostly empty. People don't usually hang around there." They thanked the guard and left. Outside, Singh called the property records office to see if the site had a known owner. They were told it belonged to a shell corporation, a dead end for immediate answers. Helena tensed. "This is a perfect lair for someone who wants to stay off the grid. Let's go see for ourselves." They drove around the block, finding the locked gate the suspect had opened. Rusted chain link, a heavy padlock. Singh used a flashlight to inspect it. No sign of forced entry. The man likely had a legitimate key. Beyond the fence, the lot stretched to a half-collapsed warehouse. Broken windows, graffiti-smeared walls. The entire place screamed secrecy. Helena tugged at the lock. "We need a warrant to enter officially, but if we wait for that, he may relocate." He's proven resourceful. Singh hesitated, scanning the deserted street. "We don't have probable cause for a forced entry," he said, though conflict etched his features. He knew a killer might be inside. A breeze rattled the fence, and Helena felt a stab of urgency. She whispered, "Let me handle this. I'm not exactly under official protocols. If I find something suspicious, I'll let you know." Singh met her gaze. "I'll stay here. Keep watch. Be careful." Helena checked to ensure no one was around. Then, using a small lockpick kit from her jacket, she expertly opened the padlock, slipping inside. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as she crept across the dusty lot. Her heart thumped at the thought of confronting a dangerous impersonator alone, but if they tiptoed around red tape, he might kill again. She moved toward the warehouse. Its doors were chained, but the rusted side door stood ajar. She slid inside quietly, blinking to adjust to the dim interior. Cracked concrete floors and beams of light through broken skylights gave the place an eerie vibe. The smell of must, old grease, and something else, bleach, hung in the air. Her footsteps echoed as she explored the main floor. Rusted machinery lay scattered, but so did unusual items: a rolling rack of clothes, mannequins missing limbs, boxes labelled uniforms, props, badges. She stepped closer, adrenaline spiking. This was no mere storage. It was a workshop for disguises. She flipped open a crate. Inside were police patches from different jurisdictions, worn paramedic jackets, hats with courier logos, even wigs. A chill raced down her spine. The master of disguise had systematically collected these items, turning impersonation into an art form. Suddenly, a creaking noise made her whip around. A figure stood in the gloom, half hidden behind a support column. Her breath caught. Could it be him? The silhouette retreated deeper into the building. Footsteps swift. Helena's instincts roared. She reached for her phone to call Singh, but her signal bars flickered to nothing inside these thick walls. Steeling herself, she followed, mindful to keep her own steps quiet. She passed rows of mannequins draped with half-finished uniforms. It felt like stepping through a twisted museum exhibit. Further in, she glimpsed a small makeshift office, a wooden desk under a single light bulb, photos pinned to a corkboard. She edged closer. The pinned photos were surveillance shots of various potential victims. "He's stalking them," she realized with a jolt. Then she froze, seeing her own face in one corner. The photograph showed Helena leaving her office, a date scrawled beneath it. Yesterday. Fear jostled in her chest. He was watching her. She fought the urge to run. She needed evidence. Another creak from behind. Helena spun to see the figure again, now closer. She caught a glimpse of a face obscured by a baseball cap and scarf. She tensed, expecting the person to rush her, but he only hissed, "You shouldn't be here," before sprinting away into a dark corridor. Heart hammering, Helena chased him, stumbling over crates in the dim light. She glimpsed him slip through a side exit. By the time she reached the door, the lot was empty. A chain rattled in the distance. Footsteps vanished around a corner. He was gone. Returning to the makeshift office, She quickly took photos of the disguised uniforms, the pinned board, and every suspicious item. The master of disguise had a literal factory of illusions. He'd also been tracking Helena, which raised the stakes considerably. She hurried back to the gate. Singh stood outside, tension in his eyes. What happened? She unlocked the gate, breath still ragged. He was inside. He escaped. But I have proof boxes of uniforms, badges, pictures of potential targets. He's planning more hits. Singh's face darkened. We have enough to escalate. We'll coordinate a raid with a proper warrant. But we need to move fast. As Helena slipped into the passenger seat, she replayed the moment she saw her own face pinned to the corkboard. The master of disguise knew she was after him. And now he'd made her a potential target. She clenched her fists. If he thought intimidation would drive her away, he was mistaken. Chapter 5. Threading the trap. Word spread quickly through the department that Helena and Singh had located the Master of Disguise's lair, a warehouse, brimming with stolen uniforms and incriminating evidence. The next morning, a full team assembled at the precinct to plan the raid. Boxes labelled SWAT gear and tactical entry lined the hallway, officers double-checking rifles, body armour, and flashbang grenades. In a small briefing room, Singh stood at the front, arms folded. Helena, seated off to the side, watched as he addressed a handful of detectives and a SWAT leader. We have a location, but we don't know if our suspect is there right now, he said, pointing to a map of the industrial district. We'll move in quietly at dawn tomorrow. Block all exits. The SWAT leader, a grizzled veteran named Alvarez, nodded. We have unmarked vehicles, a containment perimeter. Once we're set, we'll breach the main doors and side entrances simultaneously. Helena cleared her throat. He's highly adaptable. If he hears us coming, he could slip away, possibly disguised as one of your own. We need to confirm IDs on every officer on site. Alvarez raised an eyebrow. Serious? Singh chimed in. She's right. The suspect's entire MO is infiltration. We'll have code phrases for each team, and no one enters without the correct ID checks. Keep your guard up. An uneasy ripple moved through the room. For many officers, the notion that a killer might walk among them wearing their own uniform was unnerving. Helena glanced around, reading their body language tension, some skepticism. But this was a real threat. Later that day, Helena found herself pacing in Detective Singh's office, nerves buzzing. The official raid would happen tomorrow, but she worried about the suspect taking flight overnight. She pressed a palm against the side of her head, searching for that elusive flash of insight that sometimes guided her. Nothing concrete came. She only felt a grim foreboding. Singh was reviewing a new coroner's report on the second murder victim, Mark Adler. He frowned. There's an odd detail here. Adler's body showed signs of sedation, some type of drug in his system. Possibly the killer subdued him first, then panicked when he resisted. Helena frowned. That's new. The first victim wasn't drugged, just strangled. Why escalate to sedation? Maybe to control him more easily. Singh replied, flipping pages. If our suspect is physically limited in some way, like the stiff left hand, he might need an advantage to overpower certain victims. She nodded, recalling that detail. If so, he might also be using that drug to experiment, to see how quickly he can subdue someone. Then if something goes wrong, he kills them. They studied other new leads trickling in. A local uniform supplier reported a break-in with missing items, a nurse's ID badge stolen from a hospital laundry area. It all reinforced the theory that he methodically gathered disguises. Helena couldn't shake the feeling that the suspect might already know about tomorrow's raid. A criminal, this resourceful, probably kept tabs on law enforcement chatter or paid off an insider. Just as that anxiety crested, Helena's phone rang. "Zane, I found a partial match on that left-hand clue," he said excitedly. A certain Colby Renshaw had surgery 2 years ago after a car accident. He lost some mobility in his left hand. Here's the kicker. Renshaw was once employed at a private security firm that specialized in protective services, uniforms, badge procurement, forging IDs, you name it. Helena's heart thudded. That's exactly the skill set he'd need to gather all these disguises. Any criminal record? Nothing official, Zane replied. But he was fired for misconduct. The files are sealed. He also has a small workshop in the industrial district, apparently for his hobby creating cosplay costumes. Now that's interesting. A surge of exhilaration rushed through Helena. Zane, you're a lifesaver. Can you send me everything you've got? It's on your email now, he said. Be careful. Hanging up, Helena shot an urgent text to Singh. Colby Renshaw is our guy. Checking background. Meet me ASAP. Within minutes, they convened in Singh's office, scanning through Zane's info. Renshaw's work with a security firm explained how he learned advanced infiltration tactics. The sealed misconduct file might indicate theft or unethical impersonation. The timeline matched. After his accident 2 years ago, he went off the grid. This is major, Singh said. If we confirm Renshaw is linked to that warehouse, we have probable cause to arrest him. He picked up the phone to call the SWAT leader, relaying the suspect's identity. But after a tense conversation, Singh hung up with a troubled expression. Alvarez is set on the morning raid. He wants to keep the element of surprise. He's worried if we move too fast, we could spook Renshaw. Helena pressed her lips tight. I get it, but we can't just wait around. Renshaw might be planning another murder. We know how cunning he is. Singh's eyes flicked to the clock. It's late in the day. If we try a small team infiltration now and fail, we lose tomorrow's advantage. We should at least put out a citywide bolo on Renshaw. If he's spotted, we move. Helena inhaled sharply, forcing herself to think logically. The tactical approach made sense, even if her instincts screamed to act immediately. She nodded. All right. We do it by the book. But I have a feeling he's already one step ahead. They parted ways, each weighed down by the knowledge that Renshaw might strike again tonight. On her drive home, Helena's chest felt tight, as though darkness pressed from every angle. She realized Renshaw's face was still unknown, only a name. He could shapeshift into any persona. She replayed her infiltration of the warehouse, recalling that fleeting figure who hissed at her. Could that have been him? At a stoplight, Helena closed her eyes, taking a calming breath. Her hidden instincts flickered with a mental image. Multiple uniforms hanging on a rack, the squeak of latex gloves, a flash of a paramedic's patch. Fear slithered through her. He might already have a plan for his next victim. Would she sense it in time? The light turned green, and she pressed the gas. She couldn't rely solely on intuition. She'd do everything in her power to track Colby Renshaw's movements tonight. If she failed, tomorrow's raid might be a step behind a phantom criminal one who was a master at erasing himself behind borrowed faces. Chapter 6. Midnight Mistakes. Helena couldn't sleep. The idea of waiting until dawn while a suspected killer roamed free was unbearable. At midnight, she found herself parked on a dimly lit street near the industrial warehouse, phone in hand, scanning through any new data. She'd told no one about this stakeout. If Renshaw was watching the police, maybe he wouldn't expect her alone. A swirl of doubt gnawed at her. Going solo in the Master of Disguises territory was dangerous, yet her intuition insisted she keep watch. She sipped from a thermos of strong coffee, eyes flitting between the locked gate and the warehouse roofline, partially visible in the moonlight. Half an hour crawled by with no movement. She listened to distant sirens and the hum of a late-night freight train. Then, something caught her eye. A faint flicker of light near the warehouse's upper windows. She switched off her car interior lights and sank lower in the driver's seat, adrenaline spiking. Could it be Renshaw, rummaging through his caches of uniforms and gear? She swallowed, uncertain if she should call Singh. But if she did, and a full team arrived, Renshaw might slip away again. She decided to investigate quietly, just to confirm he was there. Slipping from the car, she crept along the alley. Her breath quickened as she approached the fence she'd picked earlier. The padlock was still there, but unlatched. She eased it open, heart hammering. Inside, the warehouse loomed. No fresh footprints in the dirt, though. She tucked her flashlight under her arm, keeping it off for stealth, and made her way to the side door. Inside, her eyes adjusted to near darkness. She took measured steps on the cracked concrete. The same mannequins stood like silent sentinels, draped in half-finished disguises. The hush was eerie, but she pressed on toward the makeshift office. A single light bulb glowed overhead, which meant someone had turned it on recently. She froze, hearing faint shuffling. Her pulse leapt. Quiet as she could, she peeked around the corner. A man stood at the desk, rummaging through papers. He wore plain clothes, not a uniform. Could this be Colby Renshaw? She recalled the detail about his left hand, but she couldn't see it clearly. Desperate for more proof, Helena raised her phone to snap a photo. Just then, the phone's camera flashed. She'd forgotten to disable it. The man whipped around, a revolver in his right hand. Helena's heart jumped. She ducked behind a crate, hearing him sprint forward. "Who's there?" he snarled, footsteps echoing. Helena crouched, holding her breath. She fumbled to switch her phone to silent mode. Stupid mistake, she berated herself. The footsteps slowed, as though he was hunting for her. She risked a glance. His stance was tense, his grip on the gun steady. Definitely an experienced shooter. If he was Renshaw, he'd have no qualms about killing an intruder. She spotted a small exit behind him. No easy way to get there without crossing his line of sight. Suddenly, a voice rang out. "Freeze! Police!" Another figure burst in from the corridor, Detective Singh, gun drawn. Helena's mind reeled. How did he? Then she remembered she'd texted him the address earlier, albeit not about her plan. He must have realized she'd come here alone. The intruder swung his revolver towards Singh. Shots rang out, 2 blasts that ricocheted off metal. Helena flinched, adrenaline surging. She bolted from behind the crate, aiming her small taser at the intruder's torso. She fired, but he dodged, rolling behind a mannequin. Singh fired again, his bullet shattering a window above. Helena scrambled closer to Singh for cover. "Great timing," she hissed, her heart pounding. "Lucky guess you'd be here," he muttered, reloading. They advanced together, but the intruder had vanished into the dark corridor. Faint scuffling suggested he was retreating deeper into the warehouse. They followed, stepping over broken glass and crates. The corridor split in 2 directions. Singling out one path was guesswork. A muffled clang from the left made their choice for them. They sprinted that way, flashlights slicing through gloom. At the end of the passage, an open steel door led to a small side lot. They emerged into the moonlight, scanning the shadows. Nothing. The intruder had vanished. They heard an engine rev. Singh dashed around the corner, only to see tail lights disappearing out of the industrial yard, too far to get a plate number. Cursing under his breath, Singh holstered his weapon. Helena leaned against the warehouse wall, gasping for air. They'd cornered him, maybe even wounded him, but he escaped. "We have to assume that was Renshaw," she said, heart still thudding. "He was searching for something in those files." Singh nodded, scanning the darkness. "If he's rummaging through his own lair, maybe he's removing evidence or preparing to burn it. The raid tomorrow might be worthless if he clears everything tonight." Together, they re-entered the makeshift office to see what the intruder had taken. The corkboard was missing some photos, particularly the ones featuring future targets. The boxes of uniforms remained, but looked dishevelled. A sense of dread twisted in Helena's gut. He's planning something big, or maybe skipping town after one last job. Singh sighed heavily. "We should call this in. Get a small team here to secure what's left. At least we have enough for a search warrant, no more red tape. And if we're lucky, we can glean clues from what he left behind." As Helena dialed the station, she felt the sting of disappointment. She'd nearly cornered the master of disguise, only to let him slip away again. But she also couldn't ignore a flicker of gratitude for Singh's last-minute intervention. Without it, she might have been the next victim. The thought chilled her. She looked at the scattered uniforms, mannequins with hollow eyes, the bullet-scarred walls. This was the world Renshaw inhabited, shadows and illusions. She vowed to rip away his masks once and for all. With the official warrant coming, they'd piece together every last clue. She hoped it would be enough before he vanished into yet another false identity. Chapter 7. The Missing Photos. The next morning, the official raid proceeded, though it felt anticlimactic. SWAT teams cordoned off the warehouse, only to find it mostly empty of critical evidence. The entire operation concluded in under an hour. While they did collect the leftover uniforms, props, and certain documents Renshaw hadn't managed to grab, the suspect himself was nowhere to be found. Helena stood with Detective Singh in the aftermath, frustration etched into both of their faces. As SWAT officers packed up, Captain Russell, a no-nonsense woman with iron-grey hair, approached them. "So you believe your suspect, Colby Renshaw, cleared out anything incriminating last night?" she asked, scanning the dusty interior. "Yes, Captain," Helena replied. "He also took photos of at least 4 potential new targets. That's the most urgent clue." Captain Russell frowned. "We need to identify those 4 individuals ASAP. Our analysts are combing through the computers and phones we found in that makeshift office. If Renshaw tries to strike again, we have to be ready." Singh nodded. "We also found a receipt from a seamstress shop that modifies uniforms. Renshaw might have used them for tailoring. I'll follow up there." Russell patted Singh's shoulder. "Do it quickly. Public pressure is mounting. I'll handle any higher-ups who doubt our methods." She gave Helena a brief, respectful nod, then walked off to coordinate her officers. Helena surveyed the floor, now awash with footprints from the SWAT team. She felt a pang of regret. The day prior, she'd glimpsed so much more of Renshaw's operation, but now he'd whisked it away. "He's always one step ahead," she thought. "Let's see what's on that computer we seized," Singh suggested. They drove to the tech lab in the precinct's basement, a cramped room cluttered with monitors and half-disassembled gadgets. A bespectacled technician named Layla greeted them. "I've been sorting the files," she said. "Most are random, but there's one folder with partial data on potential jobs. Looks like addresses, schedules. Some are incomplete. Could be his future hits. Layla clicked a file. A partial address popped up, referencing an Elm Grove location, but no name. Another line read, Thursday, 3 p.m., house staff absent. There were 3 more lines like it. The final entry read, Victoria Estate, event on Saturday. Then it cut off. Helena's eyes narrowed. Victoria Estate. That's an old mansion in the West End, often used for charity events. If he's planning to hit that place, he could do it in plain sight, disguised as staff or security. Singh whistled. Think about the potential victims in a large event. He could slip inside, steal valuables, or worse. That might be the big finale to his spree. Helena's heart thumped. She recalled the missing photos from the corkboard. If one of them was linked to the owners or guests of Victoria Estate, Renshaw might be targeting a high-profile figure. We need to confirm if there's an actual event soon. If so, Renshaw might be planning a major robbery or even multiple murders. Singh got on the phone with Captain Russell, who confirmed, yes, there was a charity gala scheduled for Saturday evening at Victoria Estate, hosted by a wealthy philanthropist. Upwards of 100 attendees, including city officials. Helena's blood ran cold. That's a prime hunting ground for someone like Renshaw. Plenty of disguises to blend in, minimal suspicion. If we don't intervene, it could be catastrophic. Singh ended the call. Russell wants a discreet operation. We can't cancel the event without a confirmed threat, or the city officials will blame the department for panic. But we can station undercover officers, set up a sting. Helena paced the cramped lab. Renshaw is cunning. If he catches a whiff of a heavy police presence, he'll vanish. We need a plan that's subtle. Maybe only a few well-placed officers among the staff. Layla tapped a key, bringing up an unrelated folder. There's one more thing. I found a digital diary entry. Seems like Renshaw writing to himself, though it's incomplete. It mentions proving the system is blind and references an unnamed father figure he hates. Could be a personal vendetta fueling him. Helena's mind flicked to Renshaw's possible psychological profile. A resentment of authority, combined with mastery of disguises, plus that left-hand injury. She wondered if that father figure had ties to law enforcement, or maybe it was a wealthy parent, and the entire spree was revenge on privileged folks. That might explain the focus on upper-class targets. Before she could dwell on it further, Singh tugged her elbow. We need to move. Let's brief Captain Russell on the gala plan. If Renshaw is set on a grand final act, we have less than 2 days to prepare. By late afternoon, Helena and Singh reconvened with Russell. The strategy: a skeleton crew of undercovers posing as guests, caterers, or event security. Minimal uniformed presence to avoid spooking Renshaw. If he showed up, they'd quietly isolate him. If he fled, snipers at the perimeter might intercept. The plan was risky. One misstep, and the crowd could be in danger. Russell demanded secrecy. We can't risk a leak. For all we know, Renshaw has an informant or can intercept communications. She eyed Helena. You're not official law enforcement, but your insight is invaluable. I want you there, Ms. Monroe, if you're willing. Helena gave a resolute nod. Whatever it takes to stop him. Her mind raced with possibilities. What if he disguised himself as a guest, or a valet, or even an undercover officer? The complexity boggled the mind, but they had no choice. She prayed the hidden instincts that guided her would sharpen amidst the glitz and tension of the gala. As they left the precinct, Singh turned to her. You okay? You look tense. She managed a tight smile. I'm anticipating a confrontation. A cornered predator is the most dangerous kind, and Renshaw is cornered, whether he knows it or not. Singh sighed. Let's make sure we don't walk into a trap ourselves. Helena gazed at the fading light of day, thoughts racing. If Renshaw truly aimed to prove his skill one last time, the gala would be the perfect stage. She thought of the illusions, the mannequins, the impeccable forging. She quietly vowed to see past the mask. In 48 hours, their cat-and-mouse game would collide in a single, decisive moment, and she planned to be ready. Chapter 8. The Final Masquerade. Saturday evening arrived with an unsettling calm. The sprawling Victoria estate sparkled under strings of fairy lights, the grand foyer decked in floral arrangements and elegant decor. Wealthy philanthropists, city officials, and notable socialites were mingling in the wide marble halls, sipping champagne and exchanging pleasantries. Helena Monroe stepped out of a rented limousine, wearing a sleek cocktail dress and a discreet earpiece. She blended in like any other guest, her hair styled and makeup minimal. Beneath the veneer of sophistication, her heart raced. Detective Singh had arrived earlier, disguised as a caterer, while Captain Russell circulated as a well-heeled attendee. A handful of other plainclothes officers were scattered throughout. The plan was simple: watch for anything suspicious, particularly staff or guests who didn't belong. She moved through the crowd, scanning faces. The grandeur of the estate was mesmerizing. Golden chandeliers, polished marble floors, classical music floating from a string quartet near the entrance. It was the perfect setting for Renshaw to slip in, disguised as security, a server, or even a wealthy donor. She wondered if he might attempt a bold approach, like wearing the uniform of a high-level official. The unpredictability gnawed at her. Over her earpiece, Russell's voice crackled. "Check the service corridors, Ms. Monroe. Singh just found a suspicious staff badge in the trash. We're verifying if it's real." Helena excused herself from a conversation with a city council member, gliding toward a side hallway that led to the kitchens and staff quarters. She stepped carefully, ears tuned for anything amiss. The corridor was quieter, lined with old portraits and discreet doors for staff use. Suddenly, a door swung open, nearly hitting her. She jumped aside, heart pounding. A server carrying a tray of hors d'oeuvres appeared, apologizing profusely. She studied him, tall, early 20s, obviously flustered, but the uniform looked legitimate. She let him pass, continuing her search. Past the kitchen, she found a locked supply closet with a faint scuff near the handle. She tested it, locked from the inside. Curiosity burned. Could Renshaw be hiding in there, changing into a new disguise? She lifted her phone to text Singh, but before she hit send, the door clicked open from within. Helena stepped back, bracing herself. Out emerged a man wearing the formal livery of the estate's staff, a black coat with gold trim. His eyes met hers, and a flicker of recognition seemed to pass over his face. "Renshaw? Excuse me, miss," he said smoothly, stepping aside with an ingratiating smile. His left hand clasped a handkerchief, as if hiding it. Helena's pulse spiked. This could be it. She also noticed the staff coat looked slightly baggy on him, as if it wasn't tailored for his build. She forced a gracious smile. "My apologies. I'm a bit lost. Could you direct me back to the main hall?" He bowed slightly, still blocking her path. "Certainly. This way, please." He turned, leading her. She followed, adrenaline surging. Carefully, she tapped her phone to speed dial Detective Singh. She didn't speak, but the call connected, hopefully enough for him to hear their conversation. They walked several paces down the corridor, away from the bustle of the kitchen. Helena's stomach churned. She needed a plan. If she confronted him outright, he might bolt or pull a weapon. She also recalled how skilled he was with a gun. Finally, she broke the tense silence. "Your uniform is quite impressive. Are you new here?" He paused, half turning. "Yes," he said. "Just started. The staff is very trusting. And you, miss? You seem like you don't belong either." His voice took on an edge that sent chills through her. She realized the corridor behind them was empty, no immediate backup. She tried not to let fear show in her voice. "I'm a guest of the estate's owner. But you're right. I don't belong among these wealthy elites." He laughed softly, a menacing undertone. "Neither do I. But here we are, pretending." She saw his left hand twitch, the one with the handkerchief. Her instincts screamed. "Perhaps we're both good at it," she said. The tension crackled like static electricity. He took a step closer, eyes narrowing. "Helena Monroe," he whispered. "I've been following your progress. You and the detective, rummaging in my workshop, messing with my life's work." Her chest constricted. He'd recognized her. "Colby Renshaw, I presume?" she said, voice hushed. "I know who you are, what you've done." He snorted, anger flashing in his eyes. "Then you know I can't let you ruin my final act. This entire event is my stage now. I've prepared for months." She dared a glance at his coat pocket, half expecting a weapon. She needed to stall until Singh or someone arrived. "Why do this?" she asked quietly. "Why kill innocent people?" His jaw clenched. "Is anyone truly innocent, Ms. Monroe? I've learned that power corrupts, money corrupts, and the authorities do nothing. People hide behind their uniforms, cops, doctors, politicians. I'm just exposing that anyone can be replaced by a convincing disguise." A roiling wave of pity and revulsion washed over her. "That's not justification for murder." He bared his teeth in a twisted smile. "Maybe not. But it's exhilarating to show them how easily their illusions can be shattered." Before she could respond, a voice echoed from behind. "Police! Hands where I can see them!" Detective Singh, weapon drawn, with 2 plainclothes officers flanking him. Helena's relief surged, but Renshaw moved like lightning. He grabbed Helena by the arm, yanking her close. She felt the cold press of metal near her ribs, a small, concealed pistol. Singh and the officers froze. "Back off!" Renshaw snarled. "Or I shoot her." Helena's pulse thundered in her ears. She met Singh's eyes, silently urging him to wait for the right moment. Renshaw started edging backward, pulling Helena along, aiming to reach a side exit. The corridor was tight. One reckless move, and a bullet could claim her life. She heard the muffled sound of the gala continuing just a few halls away, oblivious to the deadly standoff. Her mind spun. She needed an opening. With her free hand, she reached for the single self-defense tool she had, a small pepper spray canister disguised as lipstick, if she could deploy it. Singh's voice cut the tension. "No escape this time, Renshaw. This place is surrounded. Let her go." Renshaw's grip tightened on Helena's arm. "You're lying, and I'm never trapped." In that split second, Helena twisted, bringing the pepper spray up toward Renshaw's face. He caught the movement too late. She pressed the nozzle, releasing a burst directly into his eyes. He howled, staggering backward, the gun arm flailing. Helena dove to the floor, rolling away as Singh fired a single shot. The bullet struck Renshaw's shoulder. He crashed to the ground, gun clattering. Panting, Helena crawled clear. Another officer rushed in, pinning Renshaw to the floor. He writhed, choking on pepper spray, left hand twitching in agony. The corridor flooded with more officers, Russell among them. Singh helped Helena up, relief plain on his face. She trembled, adrenaline surging. Renshaw glared through bloodshot, teary eyes, voice ragged. "You think you've won? The system's still broken. My work isn't over, but it was, at least for now." Captain Russell motioned for paramedics. Ironic, Helena thought, that Renshaw had once impersonated them. The paramedics arrived and stabilized him, while officers read him his rights. Exhausted, Helena leaned against the wall, heart pounding. She'd come face to face with the master of disguise in a final, nerve-shredding confrontation. The illusions had cracked. The lethal performance was over. Chapter 9. Unmasked. The ending. In the aftermath of the dramatic takedown at Victoria Estate, the gala continued in a subdued manner, guests mostly unaware of how close they'd come to danger. Detective Singh and Captain Russell decided to keep the arrest under wraps until everyone had safely departed. By midnight, the event wound down, and police vehicles discreetly escorted guests away. Helena sat on a marble bench in the estate's side garden, the moon casting silver patterns across the manicured hedges. Her hair was dishevelled, her evening gown torn at the seam from Renshaw's grip. She was still rattled, replaying the confrontation in her head. She sensed footsteps behind her and turned to see Singh approach, 2 steaming cups of tea in hand. He offered one with a wry smile. "Figured you could use this." She took it gratefully, her muscles still shaky. "Thanks. I'll never look at a charity gala the same way again." Singh chuckled softly, then turned serious. "You did well in there. That pepper spray saved your life." Helena sipped, letting the warmth spread through her. "I was lucky you arrived when you did." She gazed across the garden. "So, Renshaw's heading to the hospital first?" Singh nodded. "Gunshot wound to the shoulder, plus severe eye irritation from the spray. Once he's stable, we'll move him to a secure facility. The DA wants to charge him with 2 counts of murder, plus multiple counts of assault, robbery, impersonating an officer, you name it." A hum of satisfaction settled in her chest. "He won't slip through the cracks again?" Singh exhaled. "Captain Russell is pulling strings to ensure a high-profile prosecution. With the evidence from his warehouse and your eyewitness testimony, Renshaw's looking at a life sentence." Helena stared into her tea. "He said he wanted to prove the system is blind, that anyone can fake their way in with the right disguise. Part of me wonders if he's just a bitter man lashing out, or if there's some twisted logic behind it. Probably both," Singh said, "but he crossed a line when he started killing. No rationale can excuse that." Helena nodded, silent. She recalled his final words, "My work isn't over." She hoped that was just bravado. So many criminals thrived on the belief they were unstoppable until their illusions shattered at last. The next morning, Helena visited the hospital to check on 2 of Renshaw's surviving robbery victims. The city's sense of relief was palpable. Headlines read, "Master of Disguise, Suspect, Apprehended at Charity Gala," or "Police Foil Killer's Final Act." Among the thankful was a terrified older woman, the retiree who'd been bound and robbed months ago. She gave Helena a tearful hug, grateful that no one else would suffer. By midday, Helena was back in her office, the weight of the intense case lifted from her shoulders. She turned on her computer and found a flood of emails, journalists requesting interviews, local communities wanting safety tips, and an invitation from Captain Russell to attend a small commendation ceremony. She sorted through them, pausing at one from a name she didn't recognize. R. Halloway. The subject line read, Sarah Whitmore's Legacy. A pang struck her chest. Any reference to that case brought back bittersweet memories. She briefly scanned the text. It mentioned wanting to share new evidence about how the FBI handled certain missing person protocols. Though she'd resolved many of her feelings about Sarah's case, the guilt and frustration still lingered. She decided to save that email for later, not quite ready to revisit old scars. Then came a polite knock on her door. She looked up to see Detective Singh holding a manila folder. "Thought you'd be at the station," she said, surprised. He shrugged, stepping in. "I wanted to bring you this." He placed the folder on her desk. "The official closeout documents on the Master of Disguise case. You should have a copy, seeing as you played a crucial role." Helena opened it, seeing the case summary, her own statements, and evidence logs. "Thank you," she said softly. "Feels strange to see it all wrapped up so neatly on paper." Singh gave a wry grin. "After every major case, it's the same feeling, like you've been through a war, then you file a report and move on. But that's the job, right?" She nodded, closing the folder. "I might take a little time off. Clear my head." He studied her for a moment. "You deserve it. Just don't disappear entirely. There's bound to be another twisted case that needs your insight." Helena smiled. Though her mind flicked to the email about Sarah Whitmore's legacy, she'd never truly disappear from helping people, no matter how much rest she took. "I'll be around," she said. Singh departed, leaving her office quiet. Helena leaned back in her chair, letting the hum of the city drift through the window. The Master of Disguise was behind bars, his labyrinth of illusions dismantled. She'd confronted him face to face and walked away alive. That was victory enough. Yet, a sliver of unresolved tension remained, as it always did. The next case could be lurking around any corner. Some part of her welcomed it. Justice was more than a job. It was an unyielding drive. For now, though, she allowed herself a moment of triumph. She picked up the manila folder, running her thumb over its edges. This was closure of a sort. She rose, walking to the corkboard on the wall to pin a single photograph. One from the gala's security cameras showing Renshaw in that staff uniform, mid-arrest. The truth laid bare. It felt like a testament to the fact that no matter how elaborate the masquerade, the truth always broke through, and Helena Monroe would be there to see it done. End of chapter and end of book. Like and subscribe to support our channel and to listen to more intriguing investigative stories.